Good morning. Good morning. How the devil are you doing this fine day? I'm sorry, I need to remove that. Yeah, good morning. My apologies for that. I forgot to upload the video, or the image I'm about to show you. But let's start. Let's start with congratulations to England. Did I sit up and watch it? Did I? Hell, no, I did not. Woke up this morning to the good news that, much to my surprise, I have to say, England got past Mexico in the World Cup. Not entirely sure who that means we're facing, but given the fact that the Americans are apparently rewriting the rules about who's sent off and everything else, we may well be facing an NFL team in the next round. Who the hell knows? Good morning, you grandmasters of slam. Better to be in England than Mexico. Yes, absolutely. Dan saying no sound at my end. There's definitely sound here. I can see it going up and down. Let me just check very, very quickly. Yeah, no, I've just checked my sound levels and I'm broadcasting on all cylinders. Ken Hatter is here as well. Going to say good morning to Ken. Let me press his button, and then when that's cleared, I'll press Chris Ford's button as well. If anybody else is having problems hearing me, that's good to hear. Ken Hatter has just confirmed he has sound. Dan, the issue is at your end and not at mine. That doesn't help you at all, but it makes me feel better. Yes, so good morning. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. I'm not going to dwell on the real World Cup because we have our own to deal with, which is this. Yeah, today is we're getting down to the final stage. I think there's probably 7 or so more games to play in our mini excavator World Cup, and it's getting down to the big boys. So who do you think should go to the next round? If you think that JCB is the best mini excavator out of the two, then please type JCB into the chat. And if you think it's Takuchi, please type Takuchi. Now be very careful with the spelling of Takuchi, because otherwise the system will not register your vote. Let me just put this up on the screen so you can actually see it. It's Take, Takeuchi. Take UCHI, Takuchi. That's how you spell it. I'm going to take that off the screen. What have we had here? Already had one vote. Let's have a look. Gary Muirhead says he's on a new site today in the Scottish borders with plenty of Wi-Fi. Fantastic stuff. Does that mean you're done and dusted where you were before, or is this a temporary break? Mark Whiting is here. Going to press his button as well when I can find it. I think he's on that screen there. Yeah, there we go. We've had one vote in favour of one of our mini excavator brands, but we could do with some more. Please let us have your preference. Bizarrely, just had a message in the WhatsApp group from Jim Turner, who I haven't actually seen in the chat. Jim, I don't know why I'm talking to you. I should probably send a message in the WhatsApp group to say, Jim, you're watching the wrong thing. Stefan Edwards is here, all the way from the sunny Netherlands, I would imagine. We've had a vote over on Instagram for JCB from Adrian Rogers. The only problem, Adrian, is it doesn't actually register votes from Instagram. However, I will log it. I will log it. In fact, I'll tell you what, if I do it, there you are. I've just voted for JCB on your behalf. I hope that doesn't screw things too much. Dan Cullen is back down in sunny Plymouth, and Jim Turner has just left the WhatsApp group and he's pitched up here. Good morning to you, Jim. Thank you for being here. So yes, congratulations to England, who will be joining them in the next round of the World Cup, and who will be joining the various runners. I'm sure I've got this here. Yeah, next round thus far looks like Kobelco, Develon in the next round. Looking quite tough for JCB at the moment, but there's plenty of time to go, so keep those votes coming in. We do have quite a packed show for you today, and I've got carried away. I think I said to you last week, my morning monologues usually run to about 1,000, 1,100, sometimes 1,200 words. Today's is 1,500. Once I was on a roll, I couldn't stop. So yeah, but be prepared. Be prepared. There's a lot of talking to do. So without further ado, let's crack on with the show. Let me roll the intro and get this show on the road. Just a very quick further update from our friend Dan Cullen down in Plymouth. The site he's on now has a number of new Komatsu machines, and there's 3 PC2000s due in. Hope you get to take one of them for a spin, Dan, because they are one special piece of kit, I promise you. Right, it is Monday, the 6th of July. Welcome to the Breakfast Show. I am your host, Mark Anthony, the Walrus of Demolition, the Lord High Chancellor of live streaming, and the global voice. No, the authentic voice of the global demolition industry. I say it every day. I can still get it wrong. In today's show, the 3 things that you need to know about the new Develon DX230-9 excavator, sustainable timber production with the Volvo L120 electric wheel loader, and how Kobelco is dominating down under. We'll be doing all of that in just a moment. Jim Turner says, I was on the WhatsApp group because Andy Dalvell was in a Kefalonian plant yard. Was he? I'll have a look at that when I've done the show, or possibly while one of the videos is playing. The Kobelco video is about 7 minutes long. I may have a bit of a browse then when we get to it. But yes, it's time to crack on with the show. We're going to start, as always, with a bit of Caterpillar, and then we're going straight over to Develon after this. I just had a quick look at the WhatsApp group. It looks like our friend Mr. Darvell is turning into a bit of a vlogger. You notice that? More power to him, I say. Right, we're going to kick things off today with the Develon, the DX230-9. 3 things that you need to know about this new machine. Here we go.
Hey everyone, my name is Brian Kim. I'm the Heavy Excavator Product Manager for Develon North America, and here's 3 things you should know about our new DX230-9. Our -9 series excavators come with our factory installed 2D machine guidance and machine control system. With our machine guidance, it completely takes the guesswork out of digging, as it provides real-time bucket position as well as depth information so the operator knows where they're at relative to their target at all times. With our machine control system, grading becomes easy even for a novice operator. All they have to do is pull back on the stick and the machine will automatically adjust the boom and bucket angle to maintain that desired grade. The system is great for faster cycle times, fewer overcuts, and reduced rework. It also eliminates the need for a grade checker in the trench, thereby improving job site safety while simultaneously reducing labor costs. Next is our smart around-view monitoring camera and radar system. Our camera system's been upgraded. We've added more cameras from 4 to 6, as well as added an AI-powered human detection system. This system can actually distinguish between humans and other objects in the environment. Our radar system, the max detection range has almost doubled to 20 feet compared to our previous sensors, and the field of view has increased from 270 to 330 degrees. Using our smart AVM and radar technology, we were able to develop an emergency stop function where if a person comes within the machine and the operator does not react, the machine will automatically decelerate and then stop on its own. This is great for safety and provides added peace of mind when ground crews are working near the machine. Lastly is our stick steer function. So you can control the machine's travel using either the left joystick or the thumb wheels on the joysticks. This is great for navigating tight job sites, and in line with our redesigned cab, our stick steer function maximizes operator comfort.
Very smart, right? I'm going to go over to, very quickly over to Instagram. All Clear Demolition, just join us. Good morning to you guys. Gary Muirhead, yes, confirming. He's on a new site. No more 5 hours travel each way for me. Good, glad to hear it. Does that mean you also get home at the weekends? All the weekends? I hope so. Does it mean you get home in the evening as well? Looks a nice machine, says Dan, and Ken Hatcher says you won't need the driver soon. I don't think that's coming anytime soon. I think you'll have a lot more assistance. I think your load will be lightened, but I don't see you guys going anywhere anytime soon. We're going to be back. We're going electric in just a moment with Volvo after this.
If you are enjoying this episode, please consider supporting the show. You can leave us a tip at buymeacoffee.com/demolition news.
Yeah, we're off to see an L120 Volvo electric wheel loader working in a sustainable timber yard. Not something you see every day. Here we go.
So today we're at Permapine, based just out of Taupo, New Zealand, and we're New Zealand's largest manufacturer of posts and poles. The site is about 100 acres. In a typical day, we'll peel between 10 and 11,000 metres. We steam around 9 to 11,000 cube per month, and we treat the same. We have 20 Volvo loaders. We have 3 Volvo excavators. The guys like the Volvos. They're comfortable to ride in. The boom suspension is really good. It's a big site, and there's a lot of kilometres being travelled. We're here looking at the Volvo JL120 loader, which is a fully electric loader. Permapine has embarked on a journey with the electric loader to really help support what we're doing around sustainability and the environment. New Zealand is well known for its outdoor environment, and we've got a great country, and we're here to ensure we're protecting the environment. Business is always striving to improve themselves, and sustainability is actually something we're really working on. Part of a journey. It's not something you do, it's something you think about ongoing. We have put a biomass boiler in. Now we burn our residues and produce the steam we need to dry and fixate our product. It's just something we're continually working on. ECA also had come on board and supported this for charging and transformers and cabling, etc. This Volvo JL120 is the first fully electric loader with log forks in New Zealand, and I believe it's the first electric loader that is in a 24/7 operation. This is a real trial for Permapine, and we'll be obviously looking at the cost benefit, the reliability, and just general performance, and we see it as a real partnership with Volvo. Yes, we put the infrastructure in place with the help of ECA to expand our fleet if we want to in the future. And the steamers, they stop and start depending on what we're running through there. So it works well because we have time to charge it in that 24/7 operation. I've been pleasantly surprised. It got passed around, it went into our log yard, it went over to the treatment plant, it did a bit of operations in the yard, and the general feeling was it was really positive. It basically doesn't get wheel slippage, got a lot of torque. When you're moving around site, it's very effortless. It doesn't matter what the ground conditions are like, it handles it no problem. It's responsive, it's got good lift, it's very quick when you back and change direction. The visibility's good, the comfort's good, and the application where we're using it, that's working really well. So yes, they're really enjoying it.
Things are hotting up over on our Mini Excavator World Cup poll. I think we're pretty much neck and neck now, but that's what we're looking at. You can see at the top of the screen there. JCB taking on Takuchi. We're getting down to the last knockings on this. Soon be the quarterfinals, then the semis, and then the grand final. About a week's time, I would imagine. Dan saying, are you far from home, Gary? Has your job completed now? Gary, I'll leave you to answer that. While you're doing so, I shall press this button and make this thing happen, because we're going down under. We've just been to New Zealand. We're going to Australia in a second. Next video is about 7, nearly 8 minutes long, actually, talking about how Kobelco are dominating down under. Back after this.
Since the finance bill came into effect in April, the construction industry has seen a surge of fuel thefts. The rising cost of living has placed an additional risk of theft by employees and contractors, as well as opportunistic thieves. By using diesel dye and placing warnings of its use, you are sending a clear message that this is your fuel.
Yeah, we're off down under right now. We're going to speak to a customer in Australia who is very fond of their Kobelco machines, and they're not alone. Enjoy.
My name's Josh Scott. I own a company called Brisbane Excavations in the southeast corner of Brisbane. We've had some pretty aggressive growth in the last 2.5 years, so I guess you can attribute that to our passion for our customers and the quality of work we try and turn out. The company started out of necessity. I was an interstate truck driver and my first son was born. I missed his birth, so I thought, oh, what am I going to do? So I started a small landscaping business. I was fortunate enough to take on a job that required me to hire in an excavator. Thought to myself, wow, this is pretty lucrative.
Hi, I'm Jess Bailey, owner and general manager of Brisbane Excavations. I take care of everything in the business from invoicing, day-to-day allocations, bookings, organising things with our customers. I look after all the machine compliance, make sure their servicing's up to date, keep records of all of that. I just like to see that the boys are looking after them and they always look nice, so they're a good colour. We do general excavations primarily with custom home builders, small scale developments, be it multi-res unit blocks up to about 50 residential units. Pretty much anything in the general space. We get larger and larger projects we're obviously invited to tender for. The growth is just there. That's probably the milestones that I'm most excited about, is just seeing where this thing's going. We primarily have from your SK 0.17. It's our little baby of the fleet. We take that out for little odd jobs, and then we own inside of our fleet up to SK 55, which is your 5-6 tonne machine. And then anything beyond that, generally we try and hire in a Kobelco product as well. So we go all the way up to your 23 tonners. We use a range of attachments everywhere from obviously hydraulic grabs, but the bulk of our work is boring holes. So augering, rock breaking, dealing with concrete, heavy hard work. The first machine I purchased was an SK30. Obviously I was hiring in other manufacturers, and the SK30 being an AC cab, doing a winter and a summer in Queensland, and that on an open cab machine, I was like, I'm getting some aircon, but I need a smaller machine. So the SK30 fit the bill, and that's where I obviously engaged Marco from Bris Vegas to see if I could get one, and I'm glad that I made that choice.
G'day, I'm Marco Marabini. I'm a sales representative for Bris Vegas Machinery. I've been with the company for just over 8 years now. So in my role, I basically have a territory that I look after. I sell different equipment in that area. That can range from the brand new Kobelco excavators, 1 tonne up to 85 tonne. We also look after New Holland and ASV product as well, so skid steers and track loaders. We also do used machinery, so we look after anything used, any trade-ins.
My relationship with Marco started around 2021, 2022, but it started with a loose phone call about whether I could buy a machine.
Josh rang up chasing a price on a mini excavator. Obviously stock was a bit hard to come by at the time, so we quoted him up, followed up. I believe he was leaning towards another brand.
I had other manufacturers tell me I had to wait my turn. I had another manufacturer say I couldn't even view one of the products because I needed to do a site induction.
They couldn't supply in a time frame, so he came back to me. We ended up doing a deal. We got a machine. Back then was a quick time frame, and then from there it started with one machine, and then it's grown from there.
I rang Marco. He said, come and check the product out. So I did, and I was invited to Bris Vegas. Whether I had one machine or I had 50 machines, just everyone was super helpful.
We've always had a really good experience with Bris Vegas. Every time we go in there, they're always really friendly. They're always accommodating the kids on site there, always look after us.
So it started off with just a single machine, test the waters with obviously machinery, got established with a single machine, and then as it tends to work out, when you do good work and you've got a good reputation, it builds from there, and that's why it's got the fleet it's got today. So the Kobelco product, a couple of things. Firstly, the actual product itself, they make 2 products globally, that's being excavators and crawler cranes, and they only do the civil space, so 85 tonne and under. Some of our opposition brands will do a full range and they heavily focus on the civil mining sector, not the civil. Whereas a Kobelco is a true excavator specialist. The feedback from Josh's first SK35-6 machine, and the feedback that even Josh told me, it goes from the customer to us at deal level, to Kobelco Australia, to the people that design and build the machines. And then in new models, we see all the updates that the market requires.
One of my favourite machines in our fleet is definitely the SK55. I find it's smooth, comfortable operation. My operators, they just love them. I literally had an operator the other day going, I've spent a lot of time with another brand. He's jumped into this machine right here and went, wow, these things are so smooth. So versatility, I think the SK55 is definitely it's the workhorse of our fleet. Or the 30, 35, they play a huge role in our business as well. But yeah, I think the workhorse in our fleet is definitely the 55. Ergonomics, big screen display, everything inside of this machine. It's just a very comfortable machine. It's sleek inside, like it actually makes you feel like you're sitting in a car. It's just it's a great all-round machine.
So behind me we've got our SK35 SR-7. We kind of replicate the cabs through all the mini excavators, so SK26, 28, 30, 35, 45, 55 in the -7. The cab layout, the configuration will be standardised. You've got grandma seat on it, you've got phone holder, you've got Bluetooth radio for phone calls and also music streaming. You've got sliding windows, you've got auto idle, you've got cup holders, you've got proportional thumb rollers for tilt and also auxiliary. It's just an extremely ergonomic, user-friendly cab. So when you're doing big days and sitting in a machine for hours on end, you want to be in comfort, and this is what these mini excavators and our larger machines are.
Bris Vegas' service team's great. The parts team and obviously service are great. I ring up, there's always flexibility. We get our machines obviously serviced on site at our yard. On the weekend, they accommodate that. It's always not a problem at all. We can get it done. As for the guys in the parts department, they're exactly the same. They know our machines. If they don't, they'll look them up. If I ask for something, I've got it. It's on the shelf.
Every time we ring up about servicing and stuff like that, they always, happy to help. They look after us. They remember who we are. It's awesome.
Josh, Jess, the whole team over at Briswide have been amazing. From that very first transaction, they're a family-owned business, as is Bris Vegas Machinery. We really enjoy selling to customers that are like ourselves. We get that things are important, things that count. People, when they are the little guy and only have one machine or two machines, that to us, it doesn't matter whether you got one or whether you got 100. And again, having people like them that are always polite, they're courteous. Sometimes we can't be there within half an hour, but we'll get there as soon as we can, and they understand that. So prioritizing and making sure that we look after people that are as good to us, we've tried to be the same to them, is why that you have good relationships and they grow.
My most rewarding part of the job or the business is all the little challenges that our customers throw at us, rising to the occasion, working out what they need and getting it done. We've got a lot of subcontractors that work for us, so every day I'm talking to heaps of people, and everyone basically asks me the recommendations, and I always say Kobelco. We love the machines. They always do the right thing for us on site, reliable, good service, and I know a lot of people have bought Kobelcos because we have them. In the next 2 years, I think we've got a lot of potential to really fine-tune a lot of our processes, work on a lot of systems, and then hopefully that'll free a little bit of time up for Josh and myself, a little bit more family time.
For the growth of our business, I really want to see where it can go. I like building big things. I've got my sights set on a few bigger machines in the coming years, but 2026, 2027. All about building better relationships, maintaining the relationships that we have, even from my foundation customers. I'm doing a job for one of those on the 6th of January. Kobelco Australia, I can see those in our business's future indefinitely. I don't even look at other products anymore.
Yeah, I know next year Josh has got a few more Kobelcos on his list that he wants to get. So we look forward to continuing that relationship with Kobelco and see what 2026 brings us.
Good film. I had a couple of comments on that. I like the tint windows. Yeah, I think if you're working down under, it's probably a necessity, isn't it? Going back to this, Dan says had a few guys at his place turned away from the gates because they were over the limit after the match. Well, just phone in sick, surely. I'd say there's a few sites not turned up as well. Yeah, I would imagine so. Mick Norton says, Kobelco, great tool with their offset boom for working in tight urban areas, precise, which require precision digging. Indeed, it does. Gary Muirhead confirming this. Apparently, it's just 2 hours from home now, Dan. Yes, the other job is starting to put the concrete down now. Don't have as much plant on site, so that's good news. Gary is back closer to home. Let's have a look. That's what great other. That's what is great. Other brands wouldn't accommodate as where Kobelco jumped in and no problem. Yeah, no problem. That you are, as a manufacturer or a dealer, you are supposed to be a solutions provider, not a problem creator. Unfortunately, a few people have lost sight of that over the years. Anyway, people, it is time to find out who has won this round. Latest round of the Mini Excavator World Cup pitted JCB against Takuchi. So it's homegrown JCB against the Japanese giant Takuchi. I'm going to put that on the screen just as soon as I can find it. There we are. And I'm going to hit the stop button, and then we will find out where we are in the grand scheme of things. Here we go. It is. Oh, it's a narrow win. Narrow win for JCB. 56% of the vote. I think that's the closest one we've had. 56% of the vote for JCB, 44% for Takuchi. I can't say I'm surprised because we are a primarily domestic market or a domestic audience, But Takuchi out, that's a big deal because they are one of the 2 or 3 big hitters in the mini excavator market, I would say. Off the top of my head, Kubota, Takuchi, Yanmar, maybe, and then everybody else. But no, JCB has knocked them out. Bit of a giant killing, like last night, Norway knocking Brazil out of the World Cup. So congratulations to JCB. You go forward. Takuchi, commiserations. You did get past a round or 2, but your game is done. The competition's over. You can go and rest up and prepare for the next one. That pretty much wraps up the main part of this morning show today. I'm going to roll the outro in just a second before leaping gazelle-like over into my morning monologue. If you can't stick around, please stay safe. Look after yourself, your family, your friends, and your colleagues. I will warn you in advance that today's morning monologue is a little bit longer than usual. I kind of got into a flow and then I couldn't stop. And when I read it back, I thought, oh, well, I want to stick with all of that. So it's a little bit longer. They're normally, I don't know, 8-9 minutes. This one could quite easily be 10. So stick around if you are able. I will be back immediately after, when I can find the right button to press. I'll be back after this. Every single month, thousands of construction and demolition contractors across the UK sign off on direct debits and subscription fees to a vast array of trade associations, federations, and institutional bodies. It's a standard, regular business expense, often paid out of habit or a lingering sense of professional obligation. But if you sit down and look closely at the balance sheet of what these organisations actually deliver, a grim reality emerges. The sector is currently funding a graveyard. These self-appointed bodies claim to represent, protect and advance the interests of proud, hard-working industry, yet their actual output is entirely inanimate. They're dead bodies, paralysed by bureaucracy, terrified of confrontation and doing precious little for their paying members. We're living through one of the most volatile economic periods in modern construction industry. Margins are razor thin, insolvencies are rife, and the regulatory burden grows heavier by the week. At a time when contractors desperately need fierce, agile, and courageous advocates to fight their corner, they're lumbered with institutions that have devolved into private dining clubs. The modern trade body has mastered the art of survival through self-aggrandizement, existing primarily to host meetings, issue vague press releases, and pat itself on the back at annual gala dinners. What makes this institutional inertia so infuriating is the stark double standard in how contractors manage their businesses today. Given the brutal reality of the current economic climate, modern construction firms are obsessively focused on ROI, return on investment. Management teams will spend weeks, if not months, rigorously evaluating a new excavator, calculating total cost of ownership down to the last penny. They'll aggressively shop around for fuel contracts, pit insurance brokers against one another, and squeeze material suppliers just to protect a fraction of a percent on their bottom line. Every single asset must justify its place on the balance sheet. Yet when it comes to the annual invoice from their chosen trade association, that hard-nosed commercial discipline vanishes. Year after year, companies blindly renew subscriptions that can run into thousands of pounds without ever demanding a clear, quantifiable return. It's treated as an untouchable legacy expense, a premium paid for a badge on a letterhead or a sticker on a tipper tailgate. If a piece of plant sat in the yard for 12 months doing absolutely nothing, it will be sold off immediately. Yet these old boys clubs sit idle year after year, achieving nothing of tangible commercial value for their members, and the checks keep clearing. It's a massive financial blind spot in an industry. It's a massive financial blind spot in an industry that otherwise watches every single penny. When the chips are down, the primary instinct of the mainstream trade association is to look the other way. They're terrified of making waves, particularly when a crisis demands actual leadership. Consider, if you will, the high-profile collusion probe by the Competition and Markets Authority that sent shockwaves through the demolition sector. 10 major companies explicitly identified in a big rigging scandal that dragged the industry's reputation through the mud. This should have been a defining moment for the sector's leading federation. A strong, principled representative body, fiercely protective of the industry's integrity, would have taken immediate, decisive action to sanction those involved and signal that such practices would not be tolerated. Instead, the response was a collective institutional shrug. By failing to hand down any meaningful sanctions, the Federation effectively demonstrated that its priority was protecting its inner circle rather than upholding the standards of the wider sector. And frankly, when a trade association places safety guidances behind a members-only firewall, it's evident they're more focused on membership numbers and raising income than they are upon raising industry standards. This institutional spinelessness extends right into the regulatory sphere as well. There was a time when the sector looked to the official safety watchdog as a dedicated safety police, an entity focused on genuinely improving welfare, sharing best practices, and working collaboratively with contractors on site. That cooperative spirit is gone. That watchdog has morphed into a commercial enterprise, seemingly far more interested in balance sheets than building sites. Its primary focus now appears to be the aggressive collection of fees via the controversial fee for intervention scheme. Rather than acting as a supportive partner in accident prevention, it behaves like a revenue-driven corporate machine. Yet the major trade bodies remain utterly silent on this commercial shift. The absolute failure of these bodies to act as an effective shield for the industry was definitively laid bare during the battle over the red diesel subsidy. The removal of that subsidy was a financial hammer blow to heavy plant operators and demolition contractors, adding millions of pounds in overnight costs to project overheads. What did our multi-million-pound trade associations do? They did nothing until the ink was already dry on the legislation. A handful of organisations scrambled to put together a panicked, superficial lobbying campaign, but it was textbook, too little, too late. The Treasury simply marched right over them. The harsh reality is that these associations have completely failed to move with the times. Decades ago, before the digital age, they served a genuine practical purpose as information hubs. A key part of their role was the regional dissemination of complex updates from government and other authority organisations. Today, that function is totally obsolete. Every contractor in the land has regulatory updates, market data and legal news delivered directly to their smartphone or computer in real time. The trade body as information gatekeeper is dead. And furthermore, the grand myth that these organisations hold the ear of government or maintain powerful relationships with influential MPs has been completely shattered. Westminster doesn't care about trade association badges. Look at the tier 1 contractors. Giants like Balfour Beatty famously walked away from the umbrella organisation Build UK for the simple reason that the contractor themselves have far, far closer, more direct ties to government than the bodies claiming to represent them. If the largest players in the market bypass the associations to speak directly to lawmakers, what exactly are the smaller members paying for? If these organisations are not lobbying effectively, if they're not fixing the skills crisis, and if they're not defending equipment hire rates, what are they actually doing with their members' money? Over the past decade, there's been a severe dilution of purpose. Not so long ago, these bodies were laser focused on representing their members' core interests and improving the physical reality of the industry. Today, they've become completely distracted by corporate tick box exercises. They spend vast amounts of time, members' money and energy churning out endless glossy reports on sector diversity and subjective environmental targets. While contractors are trying to figure out how to survive the next quarter, their trade bodies are busy drafting corporate sociology papers. They've become self-perpetuating bureaucracies. I genuinely cannot recall the last time a mainstream trade body achieved a single tangible victory that moved their members or the wider industry forward. It's only fair, I think, to acknowledge that a tiny handful of organisations still understand the original brief, or that they've shifted that brief to align with modern industry needs. They prove that it's still possible to provide genuine value when an organisation is run with passion and clear purpose rather than bureaucratic inertia. Despite operating in a niche within a niche, the Scottish Plant Owners Association, or the SPOA, put the rest of the industry to shame during the red diesel crisis. They didn't sit on their hands. They fought a remarkably brave, spirited and vocal campaign against the Treasury's tax grab. They stood up, they engaged the media, rallied their members, and they made their voices heard loud and clear. Even though the government ultimately refused to listen, the SPOA gave their members real representation. Similarly, the Institute of Demolition Engineers continues to demonstrate what a professional body could and should look like. Rather than getting bogged down in industry politics, endless committee meetings and corporate virtue signalling, they've redoubled their efforts to actually educate the sector. Through a consistent, high-quality series of well-attended physical seminars and online webinars, they're actively raising the professional and technical standards of the demolition industry from the ground up. But these honourable exceptions only serve to highlight how dismal the rest of the institutional landscape truly is. The UK construction and demolition sectors are facing unprecedented operational headwinds, supply chain volatility, and shifting economic sands. To survive, it needs fierce, modern, and aggressive advocates who are willing to ruffle feathers and challenge authority. But what we have is a graveyard of outdated, passive institutions that view their membership base merely as a funding mechanism for their own survival. Unless these trade bodies can remember how to fight for the people who pay their wages, it's time for contractors to stop signing the checks. It's time to walk away, cancel the subscriptions, and finally bury the dead bodies of British construction. There you are. There's another bunch of Christmas parties I won't be invited to, but wouldn't have been invited anyway, so what the hell. Let's have a look. Lee Mansfield just joined us. Good morning, mate. Did you watch the England football match? Because we won. I am aware we won. I did not watch. No, I couldn't be asked, to be honest. I've been cured of my England fanship many, many years ago. I find watching Hillhead quite watching Hillhead, but I'm watching England. I was reading something. Watching England quite painful. I think we've played some of the dullest football in the entire competition, and therefore I decided to duck out. That and the fact that at 61 years old, I need my beauty sleep. I mean, you don't look like this without a good 5 or 6 hours. So no, pleased to see they won, but didn't watch. Dan saying, oh, well, I'm not a big fan of the JCB Mini. Well, they're in the next round, Dan. Not much we can do about that. Did you see the video of the old Hillhead show? I did see it. It was in our WhatsApp group. Not only did I see it, I was at that one, I think. I think 88, 89 was about the first one I would have done. Paul Latham is here. Good morning, Paul. Thank you for being here. It's unreal how many companies are wasting money on things. And ROI is one of the key drivers of industry today. You know, because we have access to, endless spreadsheets and real-time financial data. To weigh things up. How much am I spending on fuel? How much am I spending on insurance? How much am I spending on wages? How much am I spending on consumables for my equipment? You can really narrow it down, and it's we could trim that. Maybe we could shop around for that. That's got more expensive. Maybe we can chop that off. Maybe that piece of equipment that hasn't turned a track in the last 3 months, that's got to go. And yet here we are, trade association memberships. We'll renew. And it's what I find staggering with this is the actual cost rather than the headline cost. to be a member of some associations, it's a couple of £1,000, but they expect you to attend a certain number of meetings. So by the time you factor in those meetings as well, and the fact that you have to travel up and down the country to get to them, probably on the train or whatever it might be, your couple of thousand could quite easily be 10 grand a year. 10 grand a year, 10 grand a year, you could do quite a bit with. But no, and I get it, some of them will be, well, my grandfather was a member of this association, my father was a member as well, and therefore I must be a member. But surely, I mean, liken it to my business, and I've done this, so I can tell you this. I used to get all of the magazines. I used to get a copy of Earth Movers and Awesome Earth Movers and Quarry Management, and all of the magazines used to come here so that I could have a look through. Some of them people were kind enough to send me for free of charge, and some of them I had to pay for. And I ended up, there was one in particular, I won't name names because, they do their job. There was one magazine in particular, when I got them, I would put them in a box to read later. And I found about 8 or 9 copies of the same magazine, all still in their cellophane. I'd literally never, ever opened it. Never, ever opened it. So I cancelled the subscription. At a time when everyone's watching the last pennies, if your trade association, federation, institute, whatever you want to call it, if it's not doing something for you, and, I'll go back to the information dissemination. It used to be a case of the Environment Agency and the Health and Safety Executive would send their information to the trade bodies. Trade bodies would then send it on to the various members. And this was back in the days of post. So, a federation or an association would receive something from the Environment Agency, and they would then have to replicate it and send it out by post to their members. So if the Environment Agency or the HSE handed down some kind of edict today, it might be another 2 weeks before the various members of those associations ever heard about it. Today, if the EA or the HSE issue some sort of edict today, within 5 minutes, everybody in the industry knows it. So we've lost that. The representation, pet MPs, tame MPs that will go into battle on behalf of an association, a federation, whatever you want to call these bodies, those days are gone. So what are you actually getting? A couple of nice dinners a year, which you're paying over the top for. It's not just the fact that you're paying for the membership, because on top of the membership, you are expected to pay to attend these dinners as well. Yeah. What am I seeing in return for this? Mick Norton's just said this: the SPOA are an outstanding trade association with authentic representation of plant hire realities. In Scotland, easier access to ministers, other trade associations nationwide, but diluted. Yeah. Dilution is a real thing, I think. And when you think about the membership, the membership challenges and the membership numbers that you're talking about with modern associations as well. You used to be talking about associations with hundreds and hundreds, some of them even thousands and thousands of members. But that's dwindled. Across the board, that has dwindled. And I think if you were, if you're in your 50s or your 60s and you're not hands-on the business and you can afford to take an afternoon or a day out to go and attend some kind of industry meeting and sit in a stuffy boardroom and listen to people talking about stuff, maybe. But if I'm in my 20s or my 30s, possibly even my 40s, and I'm A, am I getting good value? And B, does that really represent me? I'm a person who, when I'm not here, I'm on a computer, using a smartphone, using AI and GPS tracking of my fleet and all that. And now I've got to go and sit in a boardroom and watch a PowerPoint presentation. Is that really what trade associations are supposed to be doing? Let's have a look. Going back here. Even when a trade association claims to represent SMEs, the reality is that major contractors dominate the committees. Policy bars towards the largest players is the name of the game. We were talking about that very thing just last week. What were we actually talking about in particular? I need to remember because my mind has gone completely blank. Bear with me 1 second. I know what it was. It was the CLC, Construction Leadership Council, issuing this edict on mental health in the industry, and all of their case studies and virtually everything they'd done had been done at the level that Mick has just described. It was dealing with, the big hitters, the Balfour Beatties, the Macy's, the Lang O'Rourke's, and the Morgan Sindels of this world. No speaking to Joe Bloggs, the builder, at all. Trade association members are often totally unaware of what is being lobbied. Yeah, and again, when you think about the timing of these things, I mean, there's been I can't remember exactly what it was. I think it was on RIDDOR. There's been some sort of consultation process with the HSE on RIDDOR going on for the past few months. You can't wait for the next meeting of a construction federation or a demolition federation or a plant hire federation to put that before members and for them to go away and think about it. You should be acting already, because the consultation is sometimes a couple of months, maybe 3 months. You've got to act immediately, not have committees and subcommittees and working parties and then reports to members and feedback from members. And it's just a nonsense. It really is. This is why we kind of need unions in this industry. I still have an issue with all things related to unions, because in addition to the good, they bring some baggage. They really do. I've seen that up close and personal. But we do not have the representation of the masses. Going back to that CLC thing, 99% of the UK demolition and construction industry are SMEs and micro businesses who have no representation whatsoever. And then when you take that even further, the UK demolition and construction industry employs somewhere between 2.5 and 3 million people who have no centralized forum, no voice, no association, no federation, no trade body that will represent their needs. As I said before, people are afraid to speak up and walk away. And yet, those that do don't tend to regret it. I was talking to a demolition friend of mine, a former member of the NFDC, and he was saying, he was recounting a tale where, he had literally looked at it. He'd asked his accounts department to go away and look at it. What have we paid to them and what have we had in return? And when it came back, it was like, well, it's a no-brainer. We're cancelling that. And a year, 2 years on, any regrets? None whatsoever. Made no difference to their business whatsoever, apart from that couple of £1,000 staying in the kitty. Gary Muirhead, spoken like a true Scot. I was watching the game wearing my Mexican gringo sombrero hat. Didn't work though, Gary, did it? Not that I would have been that bothered anyway. Now, Dr. Yvonne Waterman says this. Good morning, Mark. Good morning, Yvonne. I would like to invite you to come to the 9th Global Asbestos Forum Conference. It's 16th to 17th of November in Birmingham. I'm putting the program online tomorrow. EDA will be there, and I have my eye on a special demolition and asbestos removal company too. 16th to 17th of November. I think that is perfectly doable. I haven't checked my diary. Yvonne, pencil me in. I'd love to attend if I can. Look at HS2. They have loads of plant on hire. It's just sitting in the corner. Yes, it is. They may be worth a few bob if they're still in the cellophane. No. And frankly, wouldn't matter if they were, because they went straight in the bin. That's how much I enjoyed them. Also, after finishing the conference program, I'm working on the Global Asbestos Forum magazine again as a regular thing 4 times a year. I've had to finish quite a few court cases to get to this point and make the time available to do so. I always wonder what I always wonder that trade associations don't hire occupational hygienists and lawyers for the benefit of their members. So much cheaper and effective. Yes, well, occupational hygienists, there was a bit of that. There was a company called Building Health who were working with the NFDC for a while, who were doing occupational health checks sort of under the NFDC umbrella. But I think that kind of fell by the wayside. But yeah, I mean, surely that's just going back to the cheaper thing. Surely that would be one of the great benefits of being a member of a club. And I'm using the term club. if you sign up to be a member of the Construction Plant Hire Association or the Construction Equipment Association or Build UK or the National Federation of Demolition Contractors or the Institute of Demolition Engineers, you sign up and you get member benefits. And member benefits are, for example, you get your insurance 10% off, because we're not just buying for one company, we're buying for 100. I'm sure the insurance companies would be delighted to offer hefty discounts on that. Occupational health. What about group buying of equipment? You know, I'm in the market for an excavator. Well, funnily enough, I'm in the market for an excavator. Well, why don't we, rather than ordering one, we'll order two? Sod that. Why don't we order 12 and have done with it? Go to your local dealer and say, we need 12 excavators to this specification. Get the discount. But no. Mick Norton says, Unite and GMB represented on major trade association committees, but rarely vociferous in defence of plant operators, tending to follow the party line. That is for me, that's the toughest pill to swallow. Towing the party line. For example, I'm going to go back to the Construction Leadership Council. On paper, they are the conduit between industry and government. But the very fact that they are construction leadership, you would like to think that they had the construction industry's best interests at heart, front and center. But they have demonstrated repeatedly that that is not the case. The government says we're going to do a thing, and the CLC says, yes, sir. And everybody else has to fall into line. You know, when Build UK or the main contractors groups lay down their requirements for, you know, payment terms, future contract terms, whatever it might be, it should be the job of the Construction Plant Hire Association, the National Federation of Demolition Contractors, to say, hang on, no, we're not doing that. What you're suggesting there is completely unfair and unjust, and it will harm our members unnecessarily and needlessly. Stop. We're not going to do it. Instead of which they too go, oh, okay, yeah, I'll take that to our members. And it's a fait accompli. It's definitely going to happen. Where is the confrontation? Where is the pushback? Where is the fight back? Where is the drawing of a line in the sand to say we've taken enough and we will take no more? Where is that? On behalf of individual people, on behalf of individual sectors, on behalf of the entire industry, where is the persons, the associations, the federations, the bodies to say, no, absolutely not. That is not going to fly. You know, where was that pushback on red diesel? Where was that pushback on key worker status? Where is that pushback on the electrification of equipment? Where is that pushback on ultra low emission zones that require everybody to have brand spanking new machines at a time when nobody can afford them? Where is that pushback? It doesn't exist. There is nothing. There's just a fealty, a surrender. Yeah, I mean, to the point where, to a large degree now, it's not even worth organisations like the CITB and the HSE asking for feedback from these trade associations, because they already know in advance that the answer they will get will be the waving of white flag. Yes, sir. Whatever you want, that's fine. We'll do that. You want to push up the price of diesel? Yeah, fine. That's fine. You want to do away with diesel? Well, yeah, that's fine too. You want us to be electrified? Okay, that's fine. And then you want us to give up electric and go to hydrogen? Oh yeah, that's fine as well. Every single time. Dan is saying, Yvonne, can you pencil me in too? I'd be interested. Yvonne, let me know about all of this, your conference, because I'll as soon as you've got all the details ready, I'll be more than happy to share it with the membership. The membership? We don't have a membership. We have an audience. The NFCC is just a waste of time for what you get off them. Unbelievable. Why hasn't anyone started a new demolition contractor associated with their members' integrity at heart? I don't know. There was a new one. I don't know what the status of it is. There was a new one started up in Scotland a few years ago, and there was talk about bringing that further south, but I don't know. And in truth, it shouldn't even be necessary. Imagine how much easier the annual selling of your subscription would be, and not just the NFDC, but all of these organisations. How much easier your selling job would be if, come subscription time, you could say, your subscription's due. We are already fighting this for you, we're fighting that for you, and we're fighting that for you. And don't forget that we won you that 6 months ago. Instead of which, it's we're going to have a convention, and there'll be a dinner, and we'll host some awards where the same old suspects win all the awards. Where's the value? What am I getting in return for that? Mick Norton says, unbelievably, the CLC is designed to channel information policy priorities and influence between government and the construction sector. It is the UK's formal mechanism for two-way communication. Can I just, I realise you've probably taken that from a website, and you're absolutely right. That is the formal explanation of what it is. But allow me to explain how that two-way, or that two-way communication works. Government says you'll do this, you'll do that, and you'll do this as well. And the two-way communication go back up the other way is the CLC saying, okay, yeah, we'll do that. Yeah. Anything else? Yeah, we'll do that. Jim Turner says, as an industry, we need more cooperatives where opinions can be pulled and pressure applied to governments. I am a huge, huge fan of cooperatives. And I don't just mean the local shop, although they do sell a very good tuna sandwich. Not that kind. But when you look at, I know they still exist in sort of rural communities with farmers helping farmers and that kind of thing. I think we've missed a trick with that. I really do. Yvonne says, my pleasure, Dan, and thank you. Not a problem at all. You're more than welcome. Look at last job was on, brand new ADT landed on site, done 1 hour's work and then broke down for 3 days. Brilliant. Cooperatives have political sway, buying power, a united presence, and everyone in the group has more chance of making more profit. Yes. Yeah, I mean, even localized networking groups. I've not done that for many, many years. But, I used to belong to a local networking group, and come the time I needed some new business cards, there was a bloke there that did business cards. I needed a website building. There was a bloke there that did website. There was a woman there that needed a bit of PR. I did her PR for her. And we all helped, a rising tide raises all the boats. We all helped each other. We all pushed each other forward. I introduced a woman that was there. She was like an IT expert. I introduced her to a company. She started working with them as a freelance and ended up being employed by them at a fairly hefty old salary. That's what cooperatives can do. But I think it's a really tough sell at the moment, because I think when times are hard, and let's be absolutely honest, times are hard at the moment, I think there is a real temptation of keeping your stuff to yourself. Let me do that again without that in the right. Keeping your stuff to yourself. Putting your arm around your homework like you used to do when you were at school. Every man for himself. I'm not going to help the bloke up the road because he wouldn't help me. Well, maybe he would. Maybe a cup of tea or a cup of coffee or a pint down the local pub. Maybe you could actually represent each other a little bit more. Maybe you could go to your local plant dealer and say, I want a better deal on my excavators, on my wheel loaders. Or maybe I want to buy my parts at a more preferential rate, because I'm not just buying for me, I'm buying for Bob and Jim and Dave and Steve. Maybe. If I had the money, I'd love to start up something like that to give to the contractor. Yeah. I like the sound of a cooperative in construction. Yeah. And give them something for their money. Listen, this is not an attack the NFDC. I didn't even name them in the monologue itself. But when you look at what they do, where are they? What are they actually doing? When was the last time they, as the Americans say, when was the last time they actually moved the needle? When was the last time the NFDC or the CPA or the CEA or Build UK made individual member companies safer, more productive, better run, more profitable, more environmentally friendly? When was the last time a trade association did any of those things? Because I have racked my brains. I mean, I maybe Build UK with their fair payment scheme, maybe that has moved the needle a little bit, although government has insisted upon that now anyway, so it wouldn't have made a huge amount of difference. But beyond that, I'm not thinking of a huge amount going on. And just because I've got it on my screen, and I'm going to refer back to this, I wrote a piece over the weekend, which you may or may not have seen, about the fact that the British brick industry is really in tough times at the moment. Rising energy costs, and the downturn in UK house building, and then to top it all, obviously we've got an economic downturn anyway, all of which could quite easily kill UK British brick manufacturing, something we've done for hundreds and hundreds of years, something that we was a proud part of our industrial heritage, and it could die, and it could give way to imported bricks. And what's being done? I mean, there are a couple of campaigns that have been started, but it's not campaigns among construction companies, it's individual campaigns. Where is their representation? Go back to the demolition element of things. When we first started to hear the dread word embodied carbon, and we should be seeing demolition as the last possible resort. We should be refurbing, refitting, but demolition as the last resort. Where was the outcry? Where was the outrage? Where was the marching on number 10 saying, hang on a minute, pal, not happening. You're not looking at the bigger picture here. Nothing whatsoever. In fact, I know this for a fact. I raised it, and I raised it time and time and time again, and in the upper echelons of the NFDC, it was dismissed as, it's just that Mark Anthony scaremongering to get more viewers. Turns out I was right, though, didn't it? A cooperative might pool their plant assets. There's another element. I mean, I'm talking about actually buying equipment, and there are, buying clubs and that kind of thing. There is a benefit there, but imagine, because farmers do this, if you've got, I think it was Dan said earlier, they've got equipment on his site that hasn't turned a track in 3 months, but that might actually do a turn for somebody down the road. So they cross hire it, or they borrow it, for want of a better term, and then maybe you borrow something of theirs, or maybe you hire something of theirs, and rather than having machines stood idle. This is a strange analogy to draw, but think about football stadia in the UK. My home ground, London Stadium over in Stratford. West Ham generally play there on a Saturday or a Sunday. Sometimes they play on a Tuesday or a Wednesday. But for basically 5 days of the week, there's an 80,000-seater stadium sat there completely empty. Now, yes, come the weekend, we do host a few concerts. Beyonce pitches up and does her thing. But by and large, that thing is sat empty. What could be done with that for the local people, local community, local sports clubs, local music venues? What else could you do with that? And you think about that with the equipment that we have sat idle, and we know it's idle because we've got the telematics to prove it these days. We've got an excavator sat there not turning a track, but we've got a bloke over here who could do with an excavator for a fortnight. Well, why don't we come to some sort of arrangement? And if there's a cooperative umbrella over the top of it, the to and fro of money and favours and everything else, it's all taken care of. It's all under that umbrella, and everybody trusts everybody else. How hard would that be? Cooperatives thrive in heritage restoration. Do they? Do they indeed? If we had more cooperatives between landowners, developers and contractors, more houses would be built, making more profit, and houses could be cheaper. See? There you are. Shall I tell you a very quick story? Very, very quick story. I went to Bilbao in Spain many, many years ago. I was there working for Caterpillar, and I was doing like a week around bits of Spain, but Bilbao was our base. Anyway, I was being driven around by the local sales rep from Caterpillar, and we'd done a day, and I'd arrived, gone to bed, got up the following day, done a day, and went to bed, got up the following day, and he said to me, "What are you doing for dinner today or this evening?" And I said, "I don't know. I hadn't really thought about it. I'll grab something in the hotel, or I'll go for a stroll." He said, "Why don't you come with me for dinner?" And I assumed we were going to a restaurant or possibly going to his house. Turns out we were going to a flat, and it was an apartment. And a group of guys had got together to buy this apartment in Bilbao. And once a week, they would get together and they would have a chat, have a cigar, have a few glasses of wine, have some nice food, and just be blokes among blokes. It turns out this was a cooperative. And we arrived, and a guy arrived with baskets of bread. Fantastic. It turns out this guy, baker. A couple of minutes later, a guy turned up, crates of wine, local wine. He had a vineyard. Another guy arrived with huge hams. He was a butcher. And everyone brought something to the party, and it wasn't even a party. We basically sat there and watched football and chatted, and some of them smoked cigars. We had some wine, we had some fantastic food, and it was basically a cooperative. And okay, now probably frowned upon. This was late 80s, early 90s, probably frowned upon today, men's club, being restrictive of female entry and all that. I take all that on board. But what they'd actually done was they got together for the betterment of all. We will buy this apartment together. We will part own this apartment. We will benefit from the fact that the apartment will raise in value. But once a week, we'll get together. We'll all have a good old chinwag. We'll feel better about the world. We'll have some nice meat, some nice bread, some nice wine, and then we'll go our separate ways. It was a fantastic evening. I'm still talking about it 35 years later, probably. I think a successful construction cooperative could enhance safety. Yes, I agree. And also, and again, I'm going to go off slightly at a tangent. If you read the book on the growth and the establishment of McDonald's, the burger brand, most of what McDonald's do was centrally organized. So they didn't invent, but they perfected the hamburger, the cheeseburger, the quarter pounder, the Big Mac, and everything else, but not the chicken McNugget. The chicken McNugget actually originated with one of their franchises because they were fed up with local people trying to be a bit more healthy. Not that chicken McNuggets are particularly healthy, but they were trying to be more healthy and trying to avoid red meat, and they wanted something chicken. They came up with it, fed it back up the line, and it was not just adopted nationally, it was adopted globally. Those ideas and those innovations that come from the ground and then go back up, I think they have enormous value. Speaking of which, I'm going to go off slightly at a tangent now. You may recall a couple of Wednesdays ago, we had an evening show with a guy called Tor McLeod talking about AI and the adoption thereof. Well, he and I have been speaking quite a lot, a hell of a lot, actually, off air and away from prying eyes. And he has developed, I played a tiny, tiny role in it, but I'm going to claim some ownership. But he has developed an app to generate your risk assessments and method statements. And going back to that notion of dissemination of information, because of the way that he set up the app, it is constantly drawing the latest information from the health and safety executive, from all the regulation bodies, drawing the very, very latest, literally up to the minute. And you can speak to this app on your phone and say, I don't know, I found something here that needs cutting by Hotworks. Write me the RAMs, and it will literally instantly write you a set of RAMs that you can then circulate. It's based on the latest information, latest regulations, but it's fully advisory as well. This is what we need to do. this is how we intend to do it, and this is the equipment and the methodology that we are going to use. Send it off to get it approved, and everyone says, yeah, that's fine, and you crack on. But it goes further than that. Obviously, that is aimed at management, understandably. But also, if you are an individual and you have access to this app, it's not available yet, but if you had availability or access to that app, you could go onto it. Maybe you've found something on the site that you're working on, and before you do anything else, you just say, oh, I wonder, and you say to the app, I've just found this, and the app will say, oh, what you need to do with this is this, and this. Make sure you do this, make sure you do that. Well, whatever you do, don't do that. Here's the clothing you need to wear. Here's the equipment you should be using. Make sure you advise all these people. It does the whole kit and caboodle for you. Yeah. Cooperative, shared ownership, pooled resources, collective benefit. I agree. And listen, I've said this before, and I will say it again, and I will regret this to my dying day. I think some of us content creators missed a trick early doors. You will remember that when COVID was ravaging our streets, myself, Peter Haddock, and Nick Drew got our heads together as the Construction Collective, and we were doing, podcasts and live streams together, and basically just trying to inform and educate and entertain the industry, but also trying to help each other out. We all three of us were. I wouldn't say we were between jobs, but our jobs of old were not really there anymore. And we let that dwindle, and I think that was a mistake for all three of us. But I think also we should have teamed up with. I mean, going back to the equipment thing, I have here. I've literally lost count of how many cameras we own, but I reckon we've got 8, 9, 10 cameras. Some of which very rarely get an outing. We've got 3 drones. Only one of which gets a regular outing. We've got all of that equipment. I've got lighting equipment. I've got microphones coming out of my ear holes, which might actually help somebody out. If there's an up and coming vlogger or YouTuber or Instagrammer or TikToker that is, in this industry, and we could do something together, and help each other. I've already done a lot of the stuff that newcomers are doing. I've overcome some of the obstacles and the objections and stuff, and my advice is freely available. And I have used it, but we could have done more. We could have formalized that and really push things forward. And I think ultimately it would have been better for you. I mean, my biggest regret with doing this show is the fact that it is just this show. Yes, we do a Saturday show occasionally. Yes, we do an evening show occasionally. But really and truly, it would be fantastic if we had a proper programming schedule. So maybe you watch me from 10 till 11, 13 in the morning, and then at 12 o'clock somebody else comes on, and then at 2 o'clock this afternoon somebody else comes on, and at 6 o'clock this evening somebody else comes on, and there would be maybe it was just called Construction and Demolition TV, but you would tune in at the various times of the day, and you would have new content with different people and their opinions and your feedback and all the latest information. We missed a trick. RAMs often fail because they're generic. Can AI fix this shortfall? Yeah, it can. And as I say, I'm looking forward to being able to actually show it to you in action. But one of the things that the AI can actually do is it can, you can train it on your requirements. So yes, the information that it's drawing from the regulators, working at height regs, Health and Safety at Work Act, and all of that is. It's not generic, but it is universal. It applies to everyone and to everything. But if there are certain things within your organization that you do differently, you can factor that in. You can train the AI to do that. And ultimately, I think one of the biggest things is going to be training the output, because I think there is a temptation with risk assessments and method statements that bigger is better. We've got a RAMS that runs to 1,061 pages. It looks impressive. When it hits the desk, it makes an almighty thud. I'm sure you're very pleased with it, but no fucker's going to read that. They might read two sheets of A4 that are well illustrated, and particularly if you're, handing them out to operators or operatives on the site, they're not going to sit down and take a day to read 1,000 pages, but they will, as part of a toolbox talk. Oh, okay, yeah, I've got it. I've got that in 2 pages, and I'll go away and make use of that. That I think would have real value. So yes, watch this space, I would say. That sounds great, but would you actually trust some guys now to do this? Like buy a piece of kit together, get a meeting point regularly to be a great idea? Well, I mean, timeshares that exist, don't they? It's not really that different. And, if you buy it outright, you don't really stand to lose, do you? I listen, I'm not looking at buying an apartment with my group of buddies, because wouldn't work, but there are things that we could and should be doing together. Dan says there will always be one who'll do something to strain that. Yeah, there will, but then you get that in any friendship group, don't you? There's always that one. Oh God, here we go. I'm sure we've had that the guy that suddenly has a very weak bladder when it's his round, or he's left his wallet at home again. You're always going to get that. I think it's a vetting process, isn't it? Hey, Mark, why don't we all pull together and get an apartment, and we get together and put the world to rights as a team? Let me get my new house first. I'll bore you with that some other time. Jim, there you go. A drone and a mic for your channel. Try and see if it's a way forward. Mick Norton says, I can see AI speeding up hazard identification, though it should not replace human input. Do you know the funny thing? I've got AI on my phone that I can speak to, but I don't generally. I generally type into it. I've got AI on this computer. I always type into it. I've got AI on my laptop, and I always type into it. And when I was talking to Tom McLeod about this app that he's developed, and he said it's speech, there was a bit of it went, but that's me. I type for a living, so that's my that's my way of getting information in. But when you think about it, if you're walking around a site as a site supervisor or something like that, or even like, before, when you do your pre-start walk around, to go around and say, okay, well, that's an issue up there, and you just say it into your phone like you're talking to somebody, literally like you're talking to head office. I've just found a bit, yeah, that's going to need hot works. We need to be aware of that. And I've just found, I think that, yeah, that's almost certainly asbestos. That's a party wall there. That's going to be a bit of an issue. There's there's a void under here. We need to make note of that. And if you're just saying that into your phone, and at the end of it, the app just goes, right, we've taken all that on board. We've logged what you said, where you said it, when you said it. Here's everything you could possibly need to know, and we've logged all of that. So ultimately, there's almost also a bit of a protection, a safety net for you as an individual or as a demolition contractor. If you have said, you've got categoric proof. On the 6th of July 2026 at 11:19, I said that I'd discovered this thing, and I've passed that back up the line. I've identified it. We've got the method statement. We've got the risk assessment for it, and it's subsequently been overlooked. Not me. Not us. I've got documentary proof right here that was identified at this time on that date. I also went to the trouble of telling you how it was supposed to be dealt with. Now, you, as another subcontractor, as a main contractor, as a developer, or as a client, have chosen to ignore that and have therefore put yourself or us or everybody in some sort of danger. Your problem, pal, because I did my bit. Look, I can prove it to you. I think there's a lot to be said for it. AI-generated RAMs will, at some stage, be tested in a court of law. I'm inclined to agree with you, but the thing that I would say about that, and I'm not, I don't stand to make any money out of this app, by the way, just to make you absolutely clear about that, because the plan is to give it away for free. So I don't stand to do to get any money out of it. So I'm going to say this, from head and heart as well. I personally would have greater faith in an AI-generated RAMS than I would in a human-generated one. Because humans are, guess what? Human. Humans make mistakes. Humans miss stuff. Humans forget. Humans are fallible. AI is none of those things. So long as I've seen it. I've seen it do its thing. So long as that the background to that app is set up correctly, which it is, it can't make a mistake. Jim says, I have an investment idea for people. If I'm ever wealthy enough to put it into practice, the banks won't like it. What do the banks like? Let's be honest. If AI is used, the human reviewer becomes the legally responsible author. Is that not the case when a human author writes it anyway? Surely that's the case. Unless I've missed something. But think about this. It goes back to a conversation we had last week when I was talking about which jobs in this industry are likely to go first. I don't believe it will be the operators, because I don't think their skills could be replicated quite so easily. But there are companies now with departments dedicated to writing RAMs and stuff. What if you could outsource that to an AI? And rather than having 2 or 3 people sitting there typing up, oh, here's another set of RAMs, here's another set of RAMs, here's another set of RAMs for this site, for that site, for the other. You outsource it to an AI, and you have one person in that office whose job basically is to dot the I's and cross the T's and make sure that it meets not just the legal requirements, but your requirements as well. Saved yourself some jobs, haven't you? Saved yourself some money that maybe you could pay your operators a little bit more. Just saying. What was that? Yeah. No, I think I've done that one. Yeah, I've done that one. Right, people. That's an hour and 22 minutes of your life that you're never, ever going to get back. So I'm going to love you and leave you. I'll be back tomorrow. Hopefully it's going to be a little bit cooler, but I don't think it is, because I'm sweltering now. I'll be back tomorrow. I'm going to reach out to Yvonne Waterman to find out more about her event in November. Hopefully get along to that. Be good fun to do that. I'll be back tomorrow if we get more of the same, another round of the Mini Excavator World Cup, and I can tell you that the next match will be a couple of names you might have heard of: Komatsu versus Yanmar. Might AI miss a reasonably foreseeable risk? The AI can't miss a reasonably foreseeable risk, because the AI is not actually generating the input, it is only generating the output. Ultimately, humans will need to tell the app, there's this, there's that, we've got this equipment, these hazards, these working conditions, these restrictions and everything else. And at that point, and only at that point, will the AI then be able to work. So if there is a reasonably foreseeable risk that's missed, it wasn't the AI that missed it. And maybe if we're talking about, generic, reasonably foreseeable risks, maybe those sort of things need to be factored into the construction of the AI in the first place. So in addition to drawing from the Health and Safety at Work Act, or working at height regs, or poor regs, or whatever it might be, they also draw from that as well. Yeah. OMG, just been told that. Just been told what? Just been told what? I don't know. People, go and have a fine and splendid day. They didn't know that we were here. The mystery continues. I've no idea. AI is a tool, not a competent person. Yeah, But it is a 24/7, 365-day a year infallible tool. What it is fed is fallible, but what it spews out afterwards is not. Enough, people. Go and have a good day. Dan saying it's madness, the lack of communication. I can only imagine. I'll be back tomorrow, 10 a.m. for yet more of the same. Until then, everybody, have a good day, and I shall see you very soon. All the best.